The galaxy had always laughed at humans. 300 years ago, when the first alien ships appeared above Earth, humanity thought they were witnessing a miracle. The stars were full of life. Ancient civilizations had built empires across thousands of worlds. Faster-than-light travel was real. Humans were not alone, but the miracle quickly became a nightmare. The Galactic Concord looked at humanity and saw nothing impressive. Human ships were slow and weak. Human weapons were like toys compared to alien technology. Human territory was just one small solar system in a galaxy of billions of stars. The elder races, the Veluxy Empire with their massive warships, the Keth Dominion with their warrior culture, and the Triumvirate of Shells with their ancient wisdom all agreed on one thing. Humans were beneath their notice. They gave humanity a small trade corridor. They set strict rules about where humans could travel. They treated Earth like a backward village in the corner of a great kingdom. And then they forgot about humanity entirely. Admiral Taiwan remembered those early days of shame. He was just a young officer back then, standing in the corner of a diplomatic meeting while Veluxy ambassadors laughed at Earth's representatives. He watched Keth warlords point at human colonies on star maps and joke about how easy they would be to conquer. He felt the burning humiliation of being treated as less than nothing. Now Taiwan was 73 years old. His hair had turned white. His face was lined with age, but his eyes still burned with the same fire from all those years ago. He stood on the command bridge of a ship called the Jiansa, looking out at the stars through a massive viewport. The Jiansa was not supposed to exist. It was larger than a moon. Its hull stretched for thousands of kilometers in every direction. Its weapons could crack planets. Its shields could stop any attack known to galactic science. And it was completely invisible to every sensor in the galaxy. Commander Yuna walked up beside him. She was a tall woman in her 40s, with short black hair and a sharp mind. She had served under Taiwan for 15 years, and she knew him better than anyone. "All 12 Titans are in position, Admiral," she reported. "Cloak integrity is perfect. The Concorde has no idea we are here." Taiwan nodded slowly. Through the viewport, he could see the enemy fleet. 8,000 Keth warships hung in space like a swarm of angry insects. They were preparing to invade New Bizin, a human colony world with 2 million people. The Keth believed that humanity had only 40 small defense ships to protect the planet. The Keth had made a terrible mistake. "How long have we been hiding, Yuna?" Taiwan asked quietly. 300 years, sir. 300 years of pretending to be weak. 300 years of letting them insult us. 300 years of building in secret while they ignored us." He turned to face her. "Do you know what the hardest part was? Staying hidden? No. The hardest part was watching our people suffer. Every raid on our colonies. Every unfair trade deal. Every time a human was treated like garbage by some alien who thought he was better than us." Taiwan's voice was heavy with old pain. "We could have stopped it at any time. We had the power. But we stayed hidden because the plan required it." Yuna understood. The plan had been created by people who were now long dead. They had looked at humanity's position in the galaxy and seen only 2 choices. The first choice was to fight back immediately and be crushed by enemies who were too powerful. The second choice was to hide their true strength, let the galaxy underestimate them, and build in secret until no one could ever threaten humanity again. They chose to hide. For 3 centuries, humanity wore a mask. On the surface, they were the galaxy's weakest civilization. They accepted bad deals. They apologized for things that were not their fault. They let alien powers push them around. But beneath that mask, they were building something incredible. The Titans were constructed inside hollowed-out asteroids and moons where no alien sensor could find them. Entire generations of humans lived and died in secret shipyards, knowing they would never see the fruits of their labor. Scientists developed weapons that made alien technology look primitive. Engineers created shields that could stop anything. And all of it remained hidden, waiting for the right moment. That moment had finally arrived. "The Council sent their authorization this morning," Una said. "We have 57 Titans operational across human space. Every major human world is protected." Tae-Won closed his eyes for a moment. 57 planet-sized warships. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. Each one was invisible until it chose to reveal itself. And each one was crewed by humans who had trained their entire lives for this day. "Open a channel to the Keth fleet," he ordered. Una hesitated. "Sir, they will know we are here." "Yes, they will." Tae-Won's voice was calm but hard as steel. "For 300 years, we let them think we were nothing. We let them laugh at us. We let them hurt us. Now they need to understand the truth before they die." Una nodded and turned to her console. Her fingers moved across the controls. "Channel open, Admiral." Tae-Won straightened his uniform and faced the main screen. In a few moments, the Keth High Commander would see his face. In a few more moments after that, the galaxy would change forever. "This is Admiral Tae-Won of the United Earth Defense Force," he said. "I am giving you one chance to withdraw. You have 60 seconds to leave human space." He knew they would not listen. The Keth were too proud, too confident in their strength. They would laugh at his warning, just like they had laughed at humanity for 300 years. And then they would learn the truth about the quiet species they had ignored for so long. High Commander Rothek was having the best day of his life. The Keth warrior stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the planet called New Bizin on his view screen. 2 million humans lived down there. 2 million weak, soft creatures who had no idea what was coming. In a few hours, that world would belong to the Keth Dominion. Rothek's fleet was magnificent. 8,000 warships filled the space around him, each one carrying hundreds of Keth soldiers eager for battle. His invasion army numbered 3 million warriors. Against them, the humans had only 40 tiny defense frigate ships so small that Keth children used bigger vessels for training. This would not even be a battle. It would be a harvest. "High Commander," his communications officer called out. "We are receiving a strange signal." Rothek turned his massive head. The Keth were tall creatures with rough gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were small and black, and their mouths were filled with sharp teeth. Evolution had made them perfect predators. "What kind of signal?" "It is coming on our secure military frequency, sir. I do not understand how anyone could access it." Rothek felt a small flash of annoyance. Probably some human trying to beg for mercy. He had seen it before. The weak always begged when they faced the strong. "Show me," he ordered. The view screen changed. A human face appeared, an old male with white hair and dark eyes. The human wore a military uniform that Rothek did not recognize. He looked calm, almost peaceful, like a man who had already made his peace with the universe. "High Commander Rothek," the human said. "I am Admiral Tae-Won of the United Earth Defense Force. I am giving you one chance to withdraw your fleet from human space. You have 60 seconds to comply." For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then Rothek began to laugh. It started as a low rumble in his chest and grew into a roaring sound that echoed through the entire command center. His officers joined in, their harsh laughter filling the air. A human threatening the Keth. It was the funniest thing Rothek had heard in years. "Human," he shouted between laughs. "You threaten me? With what army? Your 40 little ships? My fleet will crush them like insects. My soldiers will walk through your cities by nightfall. And you dare to threaten me?" The human's expression did not change. 53 seconds. This is madness. You have lost your mind, old man. Rothak waved one of his forearms at his communications officer. Trace that signal. Find whatever garbage ship this fool is hiding in and destroy it. His officers worked quickly at their consoles. Confusion spread across their faces. Sir, I cannot locate the source. The signal is coming from everywhere at once. Our sensors are not working properly. 30 seconds. The human continued. His voice was as calm as still water. Rothak's laughter died. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones, a cold sensation that he had not felt since he was young. It took him a moment to recognize the feeling. It was fear. All ships, prepare for battle, he commanded. Find this admiral and bring me his head. 15 seconds. Rothak leaned forward, trying to understand what was happening. The human showed no fear at all. His eyes were steady. His hands were still. He looked like a man who already knew how this would end. Time is up, High Commander. And then space itself seemed to break apart. Rothak staggered backward as alarm screamed across his bridge. Through the viewport, he watched in horror as shapes appeared from nothing. They emerged from the darkness like monsters from a nightmare vast beyond anything he had ever seen. Each one larger than his homeworld's largest moon. 12 of them. 12 impossible objects surrounding his entire fleet. What? What is this? He whispered. His sensor officer was screaming numbers that made no sense. Each vessel is over 4,000 kilometers across. Weapon signatures off the scale. Shields at levels we cannot measure. This is impossible. Impossible. The human's voice came through the speakers one last time. You had your chance, High Commander. You chose poorly. The Titans opened fire. Light brighter than stars erupted from the massive warships. Beams of energy tore through Keth vessels like they were made of paper. Rothak watched 100 ships disappear in the first second. Then 200 more. Then 1,000. His fleet tried to fight back. Keth warships launched everything they had: missiles, energy weapons, kinetic rounds. None of it mattered. The attacks splashed harmlessly against shields that should not exist. The Titans did not even slow down. All ships retreat. Rothak screamed. Get us out of here. But there was nowhere to run. The 12 Titans had positioned themselves in a perfect sphere around the Keth fleet. Every escape route was blocked. Every jump point was covered. The humans had planned this perfectly. Rothak finally understood the truth. The humans had never been weak. They had been hiding, waiting, building, for 300 years. They had let the galaxy believe they were nothing while they created weapons beyond. Imagination. And now the mask had fallen. The last thing Rothak saw was a beam of light heading directly for his bridge. In that final moment, he felt something he had never felt before in his life: respect for an enemy. The humans had fooled everyone. They had fooled the entire galaxy. Then the light reached him, and High Commander Rothak of the Keth Dominion was gone. The battle lasted 17 minutes. 8,000 Keth warships became dust and debris. 3 million Keth warriors died without ever understanding what had killed them. Not a single human vessel was lost. When it was over, Admiral Taewon stood silently on the bridge of the Jeonsa. Commander Yuna approached him carefully. It is done, sir. The Keth fleet is destroyed. New Bizen is safe. Taewon nodded slowly. He felt no joy, no satisfaction. Only a deep tiredness that came from carrying a heavy burden for too long. Send word to Earth, he said quietly. The veil has fallen. Humanity is hidden no more. In the silence that followed, both of them knew that the galaxy would never be the same again. Fear travels faster than light. Within hours of the Keth fleet's destruction, every major power in the galaxy knew what had happened. Messages flew between star systems at impossible speeds. Leaders gathered in emergency meetings. Military commanders pulled up old records of humanity and searched desperately for any sign they had missed. They found nothing. For 300 years, humanity had hidden perfectly. There were no clues, no warnings, no hints of what was coming. The humans had worn their mask of weakness so well that even the best intelligence services in the galaxy had been fooled completely. On the Galactic Concord's capital station, panic was spreading like wildfire. The station was enormous, a metal ring floating in space that served as the center of galactic politics. Representatives from every major species gathered here to make laws, sign treaties, and decide the fate of trillions of lives. For centuries, it had been a place of power and pride. Now, it was a place of terror. Ambassador Jisoo walked through the crowded halls toward the Grand Chamber. She was a small woman with graying hair and a gentle face. She looked like someone's kind grandmother, the type who would bake cookies and tell stories to children. But her soft appearance hid a sharp mind and an iron will. She had been preparing for this day her entire life. The Grand Chamber was chaos when she entered. Alien diplomats were shouting at each other. Security forces lined the walls with weapons ready. Giant screens showed footage of the battle, the Keth fleet being torn apart by weapons that should not exist. The Veluxi ambassador flew down to block her path. The Veluxi were insect-like creatures with 4 wings and large compound eyes. They considered themselves the galaxy's most advanced civilization. "You," the ambassador hissed. "You tricked us all. This is an act of war." Jisoo smiled her grandmother's smile. "Please, ambassador, let us speak calmly." "Calmly? Calmly? You have hidden a fleet of world-killing ships for 3 centuries. You have made fools of every intelligence service in the Concord. How can we be calm?" More aliens gathered around them. Jisoo could feel their fear and anger pressing against her like a physical force. These were beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had never been afraid of anything until now. "May I address the chamber?" Jisoo asked politely. The triumvirate representative, a creature made of living crystal, moved forward. "Speak, human. Explain yourself before we decide your fate." Jisoo walked to the center of the room. Every eye was on her. Every sensor was recording. Whatever she said next would be heard across the galaxy. "For 300 years, she began softly, humanity endured your contempt. Your raids on our colonies killed millions of our people. Your unfair trade agreements kept our worlds poor. Your laws prevented us from expanding beyond a tiny corner of space." She paused. "And always, you treated us as beneath your notice, as insects to be stepped on whenever it pleased you." The chamber was silent now. Even the angry voices had stopped. "We could have revealed ourselves at any time," Jisoo continued. "We could have unleashed our titans and conquered your empires. We had the power. We had the opportunity." Her gentle smile remained in place. "We chose not to." "Then what do you want?" demanded a Keth diplomat, his voice shaking. "Equality. True equality. No more raids on human colonies. No more unfair treaties. No more treating humanity as your convenient victims." Jisoo's eyes moved across the room, meeting the gaze of every representative. "And if any power threatens human space again, they will learn what the Keth learned." The Veluxi ambassador's wings trembled. "This is blackmail. You are holding the entire galaxy hostage." "No, ambassador. We are simply asking to be treated as equals. Nothing more." Jisoo tilted her head. "Is that really so terrible? Is equality with humans such a horrible fate?" The ambassador had no answer. Far across the galaxy, on Earth itself, Defense Minister Dong-ho watched the broadcast in the presidential office. President Minji sat beside him, her face troubled. The office was simple wooden furniture, soft lighting, paintings of Earth's mountains and oceans on the walls. It looked like a place of peace. But the decisions made here would shape the future of humanity. "The Concord will never trust us again," Minji said quietly. Dongho shook his head. "They never trusted us before, Madam President. They merely did not fear us. There's a difference." He pulled up a star map on the display screen. 57 dots of light marked the positions of humanity's Titan's planet-sized warships scattered across human space like guardian angels. "For 3 centuries, we were prey," Dongho continued. "We smiled while they laughed at us. We apologized when they hurt us. We pretended to be weak while they took what they wanted." He turned to face the president. "That time is over. But at what cost?" Minji asked. "We have made enemies of the entire galaxy." "We were already their enemies, Madam President. They simply did not bother to tell us." Dongho's voice softened. "My grandmother died in a Keth raid when I was 7 years old. My father spent his life in poverty because Veluxi trade policies strangled our economy. I have seen what the galaxy's contempt costs us." Minji was silent for a long moment. "And now?" "Now, we are equals. Or we will be once they accept a new reality." Dongho looked out the window at Earth's blue sky. "Ambassador Jisoo will handle the diplomacy. Our Titans will handle any military threats. And humanity will finally take its rightful place among the stars." The president nodded slowly. She understood the truth, even if it was painful. Humanity had not started this conflict. They had merely ended it on their own terms. "What happens next?" she asked. "That depends on them," Dongho replied. "We have shown our strength. Now we will see if the galaxy has the wisdom to accept peace." Across the stars, the elder races were already making their choice. In secret chambers and hidden bases, the Veluxi and the Triumvirate were forming an alliance. If humanity wanted to be treated as equals, they would have to prove their worth one more time. The galaxy was not ready to accept the new reality. Not yet. Every great plan needs an architect. The galaxy's intelligence agencies worked day and night trying to understand how humanity had accomplished the impossible. They studied every scrap of data from the Keth battle. They analyzed the design of the Titans. They searched for weaknesses, for flaws, for anything that could give them an advantage. What they found instead was a ghost. Her name was Dr. Yunji, and she had been dead for 40 years. In life, Yunji had been the greatest scientist humanity had ever produced. She was a small woman with messy hair and thick glasses, the kind of person who forgot to eat meals because she was too busy thinking about equations. Her colleagues called her difficult. Her students called her brilliant. History would call her the savior of humanity. In 2289, Yunji cracked the secret of gravity manipulation. She discovered how to bend space itself, how to create shields that could stop any weapon, how to build engines that could move mountains. But her greatest invention was not a machine or a weapon. It was a plan. Yunji understood something that others missed. Humanity was weak, yes, but weakness could be hidden. If Earth revealed its new technology too soon, the elder races would unite to destroy them. But if humanity played the long game, if they pretended to stay weak while building in secret, they could become so powerful that no one would ever threaten them again. She called it the 3-century plan. Now, 40 years after her death, Captain Hana stood in the memorial chamber of the Titan called Suho. The Suho was special. It was the very first Titan ever built, constructed in secret beneath the ice of Europa. And Hana was special too. She was Yunji's granddaughter. The memorial chamber was quiet and simple. White walls, soft lighting, and a single display case containing Yunji's preserved writings. Hana came here often to read her grandmother's words, to remember the woman she had barely known. One passage was her favorite. "They see us as children. Let them. Children grow up." And when the galaxy finally notices the adult we have become, it will be too late to stop us. Not for conquest, never for conquest, but for survival, for dignity, for the right to exist without fear. Hannah touched the glass gently. She was 35 years old now, with her grandmother's sharp mind and her father's steady hands. She had trained her entire life to command a Titan. She had known since childhood that someday she would be part of something larger than herself. That day had come. The door behind her opened. Admiral Tae-won walked in slowly, his old bones protesting the movement. He looked tired. The weight of command was heavy, especially for a man who had carried it for so long. "Captain Hannah," he said, "we need to talk." Hannah turned to face him. "What has happened?" "The Veluxy and the Triumvirate are forming an alliance. They are gathering every ship they can find." Tae-won's voice was grave. "Our intelligence reports suggest they plan to attack our core worlds within the month." "How many ships?" 40,000. Everything they have." Hannah felt her heart rate increase, but she kept her face calm. 40,000 ships was an enormous force. The battle against the Keth had been a surprise attack against 8,000 vessels. This would be something entirely different. "Then we need to deploy the full fleet," she said. "All 57 Titans. The Council has already approved the order." Tae-won walked closer, his eyes fixed on Yoonji's writings. "But there is something else you should know. Our spies report that the Alliance is developing a new weapon, something designed specifically to penetrate our cloaking technology." Hannah frowned. "They are learning from their mistakes." "Yes, the Keth were surprised because they did not know we existed. The Veluxy and Triumvirate know exactly what they are facing. They will be prepared." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Hannah looked back at her grandmother's words, searching for guidance. Yoonji had planned for 3 centuries. Surely she had considered this possibility. She predicted this, did she not? Hannah asked quietly. That eventually they would adapt. That we would need to keep evolving. Tae-won nodded slowly. She called it the perpetual race. We hide, they seek. We reveal, they adapt. We advance, they follow. The Titans were never meant to be our final advantage. Just our first revealed one. Exactly. The old admiral placed a hand on her shoulder. Your grandmother designed more than just the Titans, Captain. Much more. The question is whether we are ready to show the galaxy what else we have built. Hannah thought about her grandmother's life. Yoonji had sacrificed everything for the 3-century plan. She had lived in secret laboratories, worked on projects that would not bear fruit until long after her death, and died knowing she would never see humanity's triumph. Generations of humans had made the same sacrifice, living their entire lives in hidden shipyards, raising children who would continue the work, dying without ever seeing the stars as free people. All of that sacrifice had led to this moment. We are ready, Hannah said firmly. Grandmother gave us the tools. Now we need to use them. Tae-won smiled, a rare expression on his weathered face. Good, because the Council has chosen you to lead the Titan fleet in the coming battle. Hannah blinked in surprise. Me? But Admiral, you have far more experience. I am an old man, Captain. My time is passing. Tae-won gestured at the memorial case. Your grandmother designed this future. It is fitting that her blood should lead us into it. He turned and walked toward the door, pausing at the threshold. The fleet gathers at the 3 Suns in 2 weeks. The Alliance has chosen that location for the battle. They consider it sacred ground. They think fighting there will give them spiritual strength. He shook his head. They do not understand what they are facing. What are they facing, Admiral? Tae-won looked back at her one last time. The children they ignored for 300 years. The children who grew up while no one was watching. The children who are no longer children. Then he was gone, leaving Hannah alone with her grandmother's ghost. She read the final line of Junji's writings. One more time. When the moment comes, do not hesitate. Show them everything. Let them see what humanity truly is. Hannah closed her eyes and made a silent promise. She would not hesitate. The Battle of the Three Suns would be remembered for 10,000 years. The location was a wonder of the universe, three ancient stars orbiting each other in a slow, eternal dance. Their light mixed together to create colors that no artist could capture. For the elder races, this place was sacred. They believed their gods had been born here at the beginning of time, that they chose to fight humanity here as a statement. They wanted the universe to witness the destruction of the upstart species. They wanted their gods to bless their victory. They did not understand what they had invited. Fleet Commander Suho stood on the bridge of the flagship Hanyul, watching the enemy fleet gather. 40,000 warships filled the void Veluxy dreadnoughts, triumvirate cruisers, and dozens of other species who had joined the alliance out of fear. Together, they represented the greatest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. Against them stood 57 Titans. Commander Jinwoo approached with a datapad. "Sir, the enemy fleet is in position. They are broadcasting a message to the entire galaxy. They want everyone to watch." Suho nodded. Of course they did. The Alliance wanted to show the galaxy that humanity could be beaten. They wanted to restore the old order, the comfortable hierarchy where humans were nothing and the elder races ruled everything. "Let them broadcast," Suho said calmly. "Let the whole galaxy see what happens next." He turned to face his crew. These were the best humanity had to offer, men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Their faces were calm, their hands steady. They knew what was coming. "All Titans, this is Fleet Commander Suho. Prepare for Phase 2. Across the void, the 57 Titans began to change. The Alliance commanders watched in confusion as the massive warships started to transform. Seams appeared on their surfaces. Sections began to move apart. The spherical vessels were opening like flowers greeting the sun. "What are they doing?" demanded the Veluxy fleet master. "Are they surrendering?" Then they saw what was inside. The Titans were not just warships. They were worlds. Inside each massive vessel were cities, actual cities with buildings and parks and homes. Millions of humans lived within each Titan. Generation after generation of families who had been born, lived, and died in these mobile worlds. They had factories that worked endlessly. They had schools that trained new soldiers. They had laboratories that developed new weapons. And they had shipyards. As the Titans opened fully, ships began to emerge. Not dozens, not hundreds, millions. Swarms of human vessels poured from each Titan like bees from a hive. Fighters, bombers, destroyers, cruisers, every type of warship imaginable, all built in secret over 3 centuries of preparation. For every ship the Alliance had brought, humanity had 100 more. The Veluxy fleet master stared at his sensors in horror. Impossible. This is impossible. Where did they all come from? But he already knew the answer. The Titans were not weapons. They were factories. Mobile production facilities that had been building humanity's true fleet for 300 years. Every resource the elder races had denied to humanity. Every technology they had refused to share. Humanity had developed on their own, and they had been building ever since. All human vessels. "This is Fleet Commander Suho." His voice was broadcast to every ship, every Titan, every corner of the battlefield. "Remember why we are here. Remember what our ancestors sacrificed. Remember that today, we earned the future they gave us." The human fleet moved forward. The battle was not a contest. It was a demonstration. Human fighters swarmed through the Alliance formation. their weapons cutting through shields that had once seemed invincible. Destroyers targeted enemy command ships with precision that seemed almost supernatural. The Titans themselves advanced slowly, their massive weapons firing at any vessel foolish enough to stand against them. Within 2 hours, the Alliance fleet was broken. Ships fled in every direction, desperate to escape the nightmare they had walked into. The sacred space of the Three Suns was filled with debris and desperation. Suho watched the destruction without joy. This was not what humanity had wanted. They had not asked to be feared. They had only asked to be respected. "Sir," Jinwoo said quietly, "the enemy fleet is attempting to retreat. Should we pursue?" Suho was silent for a long moment. He could destroy them all. He had the power. Humanity had the power. 3 centuries of preparation had given them the ability to crush every other civilization in the galaxy. But power without wisdom was just destruction. "No," he said finally. "Open a channel to the Alliance fleet." Jinwoo looked surprised but obeyed. "Channel open, sir." "Attention, all Alliance vessels. This is Fleet Commander Suho of the United Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to withdraw. There will be no pursuit. There will be no surrender demanded. Simply leave human space and return to your homes." Static filled the channel. Then slowly voices began to respond. Confused voices. Grateful voices. Voices that could not believe what they were hearing. The human fleet held its position as the enemy retreated. One by one, the Alliance ships jumped away, leaving behind only debris and memories. On the Galactic Concord station, Ambassador Jisoo watched the battle's end with quiet satisfaction. Young attached Eugene stood beside her, tears running down her face. "We won," Eugene whispered. "We actually won." "Yes," Jisoo agreed. "But winning the battle was never the hard part." "What do you mean?" Jisoo looked out at the stars, the same stars that humanity had gazed at for thousands of years, dreaming of the day they would walk among them as equals. "Showing strength is easy. Any fool can destroy. The hard part is what comes next, showing the galaxy that we can be trusted with this power, that we will not become the oppressors we once suffered under." She turned to face the young diplomat. "Your generation will face that challenge. You must build the peace that our warriors have made possible." 100 years later, the galaxy was a different place. The Galactic Concord had dissolved long ago, replaced by the Union of Sentient Peoples, a true federation where every species had an equal voice. Humans served as mediators, peacekeepers, and builders. The enemies of the past had become the partners of the present. The Titans still orbited human worlds, ancient guardians watching over their people. But their weapons had been silent for generations. Inside them, humans and aliens lived side by side. The mobile cities that had once been humanity's secret had become symbols of unity and hope. On New Bizen, the world that had almost been destroyed by the Cath so long ago, a memorial stood in the central square. Children of many species played around its base, laughing and chasing each other without care. The inscription was simple. We hid because we had to. We fought because we were forced to. We forgave because we chose to. This is what it means to be human. An old woman sat on a bench nearby, watching the children play. She was Ambassador Eugene now, her hair white with age, but her eyes still sharp. She had spent her life building the peace that her mentors had dreamed of. A young human boy ran up to her. "Grandmother, tell us the story again." The story of the hidden ships. Eugene smiled and pulled the child onto her lap. Other children gathered around human Veluxi, even a young Keth whose ancestors had once tried to conquer this very world. Long ago, she began, humanity was weak. Or so the galaxy believed. The children listened with wide eyes as the old woman told the story of how humanity had hidden its strength, revealed its power, and then chose mercy over vengeance. It was a story of patience and sacrifice, of courage and wisdom. It was the story of how humanity became not the rulers of the galaxy, but something far more important. Its conscience. And in the endless dark between the stars, the Titans kept their eternal watch, monuments to what humanity had been, guardians of what they had become, and promises of what they would always be. A people who had learned that true strength was not about power. It was about what you chose to do with it.